Hello.
Hip hip
Hello,
hooray!
everybody.
Hello, everyone. It's time to wind down.
Wind down. Time
And
to wind
after,
down on a beautiful Friday, on a beautiful Thanksgiving Friday here in
I
Canada.
know I was going to say happy early Thanksgiving to you. Are you guys already up at the cottage ready to celebrate?
We are. We are. We are. It's
Thanksgiving
beautiful
is
here. The
on
leaves are
Monday.
just starting to turn.
Thanksgiving's on Monday, but are you guys celebrating and having a Thanksgiving celebration over the weekend or on Monday?
Well, the kids are coming up tonight, and we've decided to have raclette for Thanksgiving dinner instead of turkey. Now, if you don't know what raclette is, some people listening might not know, but let's just say it's a lot of cheese, a lot of bread, a lot of veggies on a grill that people do themselves, and some potatoes, and it's about the easiest meal going. So with kids at 17 and almost 20 now, we decided a rule for success for Thanksgiving dinner was mom not having to spend the day in the kitchen.
I agree. And we talk about that rule every Thanksgiving. And this year, our rule, since all children are now married and everyone juggling multiple families, we're talking about the new rule of maybe we need to do Thanksgiving the weekend before Thanksgiving. So then we can, you have to make the rules bend as things change, which will be an appropriate lead into our topic.
Well, it is, because I remember when the kids were young, for me, and also because I was a single mom for so long, it was all about creating memories. I wanted to have traditions. I wanted to have things that happened every year. And as the kids got older, I discovered that was a lot more important to me than it was to them. And
right,
what
they
was
didn't care.
important to them was us just all being together. So I will put in the comments after the session today's is over, a link to raclette if anybody wants to go and
definitely.
It's a really cool meal. You need to have the little raclette machine, but once you do, it's like fondue, but better.
Nice. Well, and again, it's Thanksgiving weekend in Canada, and I have to give a shout out to Mark Carruthers, who is also in Canada, and we were exchanging Happy Thanksgiving videos on Twitter this morning, and I was telling you that I was replying to people I try to do it every day, but it kind of, some days I just don't, I'm not able to stay on top of things. And trying to reply via video, and what a difference it makes to just connect with people. I just feel like you, in a very short, the video that I did was less than a minute, and I feel like I got to know 3 different people today that I've been connected with on Twitter, but I felt like I had lunch and coffee with them today. So it was really cool.
So cool.
And hi, Barb. See, Barb and Helen. Hello. And Helen, where are you? What, are you in Canada?
Yes, yeah, she's Canada.
Oh, so happy Thanksgiving to you as well.
Yes.
To all of our Canadian friends. Yeah. And we last week tried to get this show to go live. And that was really kind of my Friday last week through most of the middle of this week was Facebook issues with their security breach they had, and then they disconnected all tools, and so we just had fits trying to connect things. So I'm glad that we are persevering and tackling this topic again, because it's a topic, Toni, that you and I started to discuss 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. When were we in Wisconsin? A couple weeks ago.
Somewhere between 2 and 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Blur.
So we started talking about the rules, and actually on our drive from Chicago to Wisconsin, we were talking about, you brought up a question that you asked me, and I thought it was interesting because we both had very different answers. You asked, what's the most important thing? What was it? What's the most important thing for a business person to do, or a person to do in business?
What a business owner do? What's the most important thing for any of us to do?
And it was interesting because my mind did not go where yours went, which is interesting. Even today, talking about our rules for success in business, I said something about the rules, and now I don't remember my exact words, but it was, that you've got to put in the time, and you've got to, I always say out learn and out work your competition to get out front, and you have to stay out front, and so that was kind of my thing. What is your most important thing to do?
Take care of you.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yes, because without you, for most of us, without us, there is no business. And just to put this in context, the reason that I've always thought of that. I've had to be reminded more times that I care to count in my life, that I am the business, and that if I don't take care of me, there is no business. But I think the context that it came up with is you and I were on this art trip, and I had said to you that about 24 hours before I was getting on the plane, I almost decided not to come. And that I had so much on my plate and so much to do, and there were so many things, and that I was on the edge of going, I'm not going to go. And then that only lasted for about 30 seconds until I remembered that the number one rule for success in business is to take care of you. And one of the ways that I take care of me, and that I'm hopefully slowly pulling you at least into the art world, although you do lots of other fun things to take care of you, is to do things that nourish me in other ways that my business doesn't. And one of those things is art, and another one of those things is friends like you, and going away. And the beautiful thing about the art retreat is that, and I think you can attest to that, is when we go there for 3 days, or last year I went for 7 days, I think about nothing else. It's almost bad in the sense that, thank goodness for Jer, because I don't look at my Facebook feed, and I don't, I really, really am totally absorbed. And that is one of the ways that I take care of me is by taking a break. So taking care of you for your health, for what nourishes you, because all of the other rules we're going to talk about today don't count if we're not taking care of us. That's my point of view. The world according to Newman.
The world according to Newman. Yeah, and it's interesting because while I know that is true, I still look at it and go, that's my rule for life success. I have to take care of me. But I look at in my business going, could my business survive without me? Yes. And my goal is that it's yes, even more so lately.
Yeah, but you and I have had this conversation. I would beg to differ. I don't know that your business could survive without you, because you really are the brains and the talent and everything behind the business. I know that you are setting it up to survive without you, and one day it may be ready to, but yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because I'm only involved in 2 accounts. Out of all of them that we manage, I only get involved, and I'm working on, making sure that I bring on people, senior people, and people that are smarter than me, that I don't have, that it is without me. And I think, and that is one of the rules, that my business rules that I've got to change. It's a hard rule to follow for so many reasons, but it is interesting because I always believe in business. And I know so many people that are just starting their business. I mean, you and I have been in business for a long time, but you can't do the 4-hour work week in business to get it off the ground. You just can't. And no matter what, now you've got to find that balance, whatever it is for you, to say, I've got to take care of me. And like you said, depending on what it is that you feel that recharges your batteries. I think it's an interesting one. Now, Ellen, let me see what Elena's saying. First employee, my back. Yeah, interesting. If it goes, everything goes. You can't, you've got to make sure that if you're the one that's keeping that running, how do you do that if your back goes out or something goes out? And I'd love to hear from you guys. What is your most important thing, rule for success? And maybe that's not a rule for success, but.
Yeah. I also think it goes back to a belief that I have, that I don't have 2 lives. I don't have a personal life and a business life. I have one life, and I love what I do, and it's all intertwined. So to say, at least for me, it's a rule to take care of me for my personal life, but I have other rules for my business life. For me, they are really, and I know you agree too, that they're really meshed together. And so if I don't take care of me, even if my business could survive without me, which in my case, mine couldn't yet. I just think that taking care of us, and then taking care of our family, and making sure that our lives are healthy is the number one rule. And history is littered with successful business people, most of them men, because that's just the way, the history has been written, who were very successful in business and had broken family lives and bad health and all of those things. And I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah. So that's what, to me, I look at, and I almost said I already do this, but I'm working on that. I am going to separate my rules for business and my rules for life, because I feel like mine never stops work. Like Kirk told me last night, you have to turn it off at 6 p.m. Like you just need to say, if I'm not getting it done. And so, I've been tracking time. He really is helping me. Actually, he's been helping me for years. I'm finally listening. That's the difference of looking at how do you remove yourself from being in your business when, like you said, my business has been me for so long. And it's,
sorry,
what's that?
I'm just going to say it is. And again, you and I have had this conversation many times. It is a choice. It's a choice that I made years ago when I was a single mom with my kids. And you went there too. It's just a choice that I made, that I was, and it has cost me. It has cost me to take the summers off or to stop thinking about it. And I also want to say it's easier said than done. And I'm 60 years old now. And when I was 40, was I able to turn off at 6 o'clock? I don't know. But I do believe at some point it's a choice you have to make. Nobody can turn it off but you. No, and you, the proverbial you, not just you, my dear friend, but nobody can turn it off but you. It has to be a choice.
Oh, totally. And that's the thing, is I have to make that shift of saying, yes, this doesn't have to be done right now, and yes, I can get to that tomorrow, or no, I don't have to be doing this, someone else, so there's a lot of those decisions. And I think in business, I had an interview this week with a really cool guy, Matt Watson, who owns Watson Creative out of Portland. And it's a big agency. And we talked about his mistake he said he made in life was he had all these junior people that were his peers when he was younger starting his business. And he said he wishes he would have had senior people who were smarter than him. Yes. And that's the thing. It's like, and I finally started moving into that. Okay, I've got people on our team that know more than me, which has allowed me, but I haven't always taken advantage of it, to say, okay, So I think you're right. It's like you have to set some rules for your life to be successful. And then you have to say, do my rules fit my lifestyle? Because sometimes we say this is a rule, like you're saying, but until you make the choice to do it, it may not fit. Some people are saying, well, my rule is to, work 8 to 5, clock out at this, but then what they're wanting from their lifestyle doesn't match up to the rule, or vice versa. Maybe,
or vice versa.
Yeah.
And I found what you just said so interesting, because you've actually brought me to my second rule. Which is, always surround yourself with people who are smarter than you are. Always surround yourself with people who are smarter than you are. In fact, last night that was a rule I learned. I learned 2 very valuable rules from my father, who unfortunately passed away many years ago now, but he ran a very successful business. And the 2 rules he shared with me the most often were: surround yourself by people who are smarter than you are, and hire slow and fire fast. The hire slow, fire fast was a great rule, and I have blown that rule so many times in my life. But the whole surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you are, it goes back to that saying that's out there. I don't know what it is, but you are who you surround yourself with. Right.
You're the compilation of the 5 people you surround yourself with. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in business, as we run businesses, really good business people, you will find they surround themselves with people who are smarter than they are. That's why we have you on our team. I mean, you're smarter than I am, than Jerry is, on all of this stuff that you do, as your team is. So if you don't have people who are smarter than you are, not only are you struggling to fill in the blanks, but you're really not in the best position to do what you are here to do.
Yeah. And again, if you're trying to build and scale a business, you've got to follow some rules to get that business to, unless that's not your, I'm thinking of how many people out there are trying to start a business and they're, trying to juggle things, and they hear one person saying, you've got to hustle, grind. And you hear the other person saying, well, you should do the 4-hour work week. You have to find the rules that are set up for your business to succeed to the level that you have a goal. So what are your goals for your business? And do your goals match the rules that you're going to put in place? Because sometimes they're not matched up, and that's why we have conflict.
But I also think adding to that equation is, and I think we talked about this on the last episode actually, is you can set goals, but then the next question needs to be, what is it going to take from you to achieve those goals?
That's right.
And
what do you have to sacrifice?
Are you prepared to do what it takes? And
that is so true.
Say, if you want to get here and you're only prepared to do this, well, you're never going to get here.
Right.
But if you're going to get here and it's going to take something from you that you're not prepared to give, then it is perfectly okay to readjust what this is so that you can have the lifestyle, and which goes back to taking care of yourself, that you want to have. But there's no magic bullet. There's no magic solution. You can't have it all. But for me, the bottom line is, and exactly what you've said so brilliantly is do they match? They have to all be congruent.
Do they match? And then ask yourself, what do I have to start doing to make them match? Or what do I have to stop doing to make them match? Because I think too often we throw out, here's our goal, but we don't ask ourselves, what's the price that I will have to pay to get to that goal? And if I'm willing to do that work, then I'm going to get, otherwise I need to adjust that goal. And too many people have this, and I think it causes frustration, and it causes this fear of I'm a failure at doing this. I'm not achieving the goal that I set up. But it's like, evaluate what your activities are to see if they match. I had a conversation early this morning, 8 o'clock. I was on a phone with someone who wasn't willing to do anything except this is what I want to achieve, and magic bullet, it's gonna happen. And it's like, you have to look at what are the activities, do they match what you want your goal to be? And so, I think that's that can be a source of constant frustration, just like it can be the other way around of going, I'm doing way too much work and I don't need to achieve that goal. I don't need to achieve. Maybe I need to reevaluate the goal for the sake of my health, but I can't keep my goal there and adjust my activity, Absolutely. And I'm curious, from those of you tuning in here live, jump in on this discussion. Like, what do you feel like you've had to adjust your goals up or down? Or do you feel like you've had to adjust your activities and rules up or down? Because, for a business to be successful, which is first interesting to say, what does that even mean? Be successful by whose standard?
Point, right? Is the definition of success. And oftentimes we're so influenced by other people's definition of success.
That's right.
And that doesn't really matter. It sometimes, and for many people, success is quality of life. And you can't talk about success without talking about quality of life. So it's different. It's different for everybody. It's different for
every person. Yeah. Your rules will be different.
Yeah, your rules will be different. But the truth is that nobody else can make that decision but you, and you, us, the royal us. And if you don't want to make that decision, then you're going to be stuck in this, mouse on a wheel, and feel like you're constantly running and not arriving where you want to be. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I even look at that and say, okay, one of the things that I have never done, I've never worked with a business coach. Number one, I always feel like, okay, I need someone who understands my business, and I need to find someone to give an objective. I don't know. I've struggled with that one, and yet I live with someone who is an amazing business coach. He goes into companies and scales them to millions of dollars, but I've always been too proud. And I know that's what it is. It's a pride issue of, I don't want him to tell me what I need to do. He doesn't understand my business. And so over the last year, I've told him, I really want your help scaling this, because I either need to just close the doors because I can't do it in the model that it's set up now and survive. I mean, I'm working 16-hour days. It's just insane. And I know. Well, I don't know. I just, like I keep saying, I just keep swimming. So, I'm finally really taking his words of advice. And I really wish he was back working with me. He's come in and out of the door that now he's no longer eligible for rehire. So I can't bring him back. He's on it one of these days.
I think you bring up a really interesting point, which is important, is that there are all kinds of different business models out there. And not all of them are susceptible to being scaled up. And not all people want to create a business model that is able to be scaled up. And so there are lots and lots and lots of entrepreneurs out there where the business is them. That's it. And if that's the business model you have, then you have to recognize that that's the business model you have. Now, for years, that's been our business model. And as you well know, although we're not going to divulge any secrets yet, by 2019, we are also going to start something that will allow us to create something that will be able to stand on its own eventually without me. But that's a shift. That's a shift in mentality. It's a shift in business model. And I have so many colleagues, so many entrepreneurs. I think of many of the people who are often on Wind Down with us. They are their business. And some of the most difficult things that they will ever have to do with their business is to own that business will go, when they close the doors, or that if they want to create something that's sellable, if that's a word, that's a huge transition. It's a huge transition. And you are experiencing right now.
Yeah, and it's a different model completely. There's solopreneur, and I talked to a woman who had the option of going into, she owns a bakery and she runs it by herself. There's no place, and she had the opportunity to go in and open bake, but she had kids still in school. She said, I decided I didn't want to go that model. I'd rather stay solopreneur. I'd rather stay where it's manageable and my rules can stay consistent with what she wanted to do. So yeah, I think it's just interesting. It depends on the type of business you're trying to build. And Ellen says, I feel I always have to adjust. Let me take those away. I always have to adjust to the changing world and the communication technology. That's interesting. Ellen, we need to be able to just pull you guys in here and say, okay, I would love to hear more about that. What do you have to adjust your activities, is the way I take that, to the changing world. And for example, social media, it does take a lot of activity and we always, as a matter of fact, this was the discussion I had this morning with this person I was speaking with, was there's certain things that an outsourced company or somebody, if you bring on an intern or you bring on someone to help you, there's certain activities they can do to help you keep your consistent messaging out there. But there's always going to be that piece, just like Toni was the rock star social media person this week when you were speaking at a conference and you were doing more social media stuff there than you probably have in a long time.
Yes.
We were very excited for you. So Ellen, I'm wondering if that's what you mean. Like you're always having to adjust your activities and what needs to be done in order to, kind of meet the demands of the business that you're trying to build.
Yeah, and I can relate to that because the conference where I was this past weekend was Realtor.com, and there were like 900 real estate agents, and they did a social media panel, and actually the woman who was the moderator was from Denver. And I said, so this is a crazy question just because you're from Denver and in social media, but do you happen to know Gina Streck? And she said, I don't know her personally, but I know of her. And that she'd met you somewhere. Anyway, long story short, everybody on the panel there were three of them, and they were all real estate agents, do their own social media. And somebody said to them, would you ever outsource? And all three of them said, no, never. No. So there's a whole bunch of opinions on that, but I think what it does is it changes the activities, that word you're using, which I love. It changes the activities, but unfortunately, a lot of the other activities that we as business owners need to be involved in didn't go away. Those activities didn't go away. It's just something new. It's not that something got replaced. It's that something new got added to the plate. And so at some point, something's got to go. And so, in fact, I was on the phone with our lovely community manager, Sarah, who's on your team. and she started to talk about Instagram stories, and she got like 3 words out of her mouth, and I went, no. I said, you can't do that until you show me how we can make it easy for me, which she did in 5 months. 5 minutes later, we figured it out, and I'm sure that will get added. But the reality is, we as business owners need to know how much time we have to spend and what's the return on investment on those things we're spending our time on. And at some point, you got to sit down and go, is this worth my time? Now, having done it this weekend and done some things I said I would never do, like sharing me standing in front of a limo, which I have always thought, no, I'll never share a picture like that. And I really was very touched that they sent this huge stretch limo for me, but I shared it and I got lots of buzz on it. I got lots of comments.
Yeah, but it was a fun video. It was a fun photo of you hugging your ladder in the limo. So it was like,
I know.
It was fun. It wasn't cool? It wasn't just I'm boasting because look at me in front of a limo. It was a fun post that took us into your world and your personality, which again, that's the part you can't outsource all the time.
Yeah.
So
no, you can't outsource
that I look at it and I always say social media doesn't work unless you do. There are certain activities you can, keeping constant, your evergreen content out there, but there's certain little things like that you go, sure, you could have taken a picture and texted it to Sarah and Sarah could have posted it. But it's like, there are certain activities that only you are able to give in the moment that people love.
I want to make one more point there because I see, as always, our time speeding by.
Oh, I know, it's crazy.
And I do want to make the point that there's a difference between rules for success and values. And there's a huge difference between those. And so you can have your rules for success and you have your values, and then you've added your activities, which I think is great, but your values need to match your rules as well. So for example, from almost day one of my values has been family first. So I can't then have a rule that says I need to work 80 hours a week because it conflicts with my values. And then one of them is full of bahoozy because I'm not supposed to say bad words. So one of them doesn't, one of them doesn't work. So I think actually you need to put all of those 3 things out. You need to put, what are your goals? Well, actually it's 4. What are your goals? What are your rules? What are your values? And what are your activities? And all of those need to make sense and flow together.
Yeah. Right. And when there's a problem, go back to that list and look at which one's out of whack, because guaranteed it's something that's out of sync that's causing you frustration. And you need to just look at that and say, what is my end goal? If my end goal is building a business that is sustainable without me, there are certain activities that are going to have to go along with that, certain sacrifices that I will have to make. But then I have to look at, okay, but if I value, and I don't have kids at home, so it's easier for me, to do this and put in the hours. But I even look at when the kids were here, I wasn't working as crazy as I think in the last 2 years, I've been crazier than ever, hours wise. And it is that tipping point of getting to a point where it's been harder to remove myself from being in the business to really focus on the business. But as a solopreneur, my goals were very different. I mean, back in the days when I was just traveling and speaking, which Kirk and I talked about that, I was like, I wasn't happy just traveling and speaking by myself. Now, Jared goes with you on a lot of the trips, but it was like both of us were going and we had kids at home. And I was just like, yeah, that wasn't a lot of fun for me. And I wasn't getting paid unless I was on a stage somewhere, which I didn't see as sustainable long-term, So yeah, you kind of have to look at all those things, your values, your goals, your activities, and say, what am I doing and what do I need to tweak? And Len actually clarified, and I think that's so interesting because it ties into what Toni said. She says in the last 7 years, the technology seems to change every month, which is amen to that. Those who say they're experts have no time to be. That's what I always say. There can't be an expert today because we are all students. There are some people who have been students longer, but we're all students because it changes every day. As a matter of fact, just today I signed up for Skillshare. I think it's Skillshare.com or .net. To take some classes on there because there's always something. These are in advanced Google Analytics because that's still an area that makes me cringe. Even when someone on our team is doing it for me, I don't understand it. And I feel like as a business owner, I need to understand it enough to be able to understand what they're doing. And I think, Elaine, you're right. You're always having to be learning. So my activity always has something in there that has to do with learning.
Yeah, now we can become experts in something and continue learning in something else. And it doesn't mean as an expert you're not continuing to learn, but there are things I know more about than other things which I know nothing about. And quite frankly, I don't want to. I don't
Right.
want to know how Google Analytics works. That's why I pay you. So then we go back to surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you are. But just before we run out of time, we actually have a handout, a download.
Yes.
To go with
Yes, you need to download this because this will give you the worksheet to sit down and go through these exercises that will help you identify these areas and really work through this. To get the download.
Is that link going to be in the comments below?
Yeah, we'll definitely put it in the comments. I don't know if you, isn't it, I'm trying to remember it. Sarah made a short link. Questions? I think it's. Well, we'll put it in the.
Let's confirm.
I had it last week. We knew what it was, but I believe it's ToniNewman.com/questions. But I could be way wrong.
Let's double check.
Yeah, let's double check. Don't rely on my brain cells. And that'll be. I'll put that in the. I'll put it actually in the description of the show, so you don't have to search through comments. I'll put that download. But you definitely want to spend some time this weekend or this week of just evaluating. You know, what is it that I really want out of my business, and what are the rules that I'm holding on to that may fit, but they may not fit, based on how these things align. So, really fun discussion, fun topic, and I'm thrilled that today it worked. Oh, I love technology.
Everything worked today. Everything was aligned.
Everything was aligned, and everything is aligned with more wine.
With more wine. With more wine. So have a great weekend, everybody, and to my Canadian friends, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes. Cheers. You all next week on
Wind Down. Have a great weekend.
Everybody, bye.